All right, let's watch SCL. This is the one I've been waiting for. Really sad that we missed the last one. That, they had technical issues, but now they have them in person, which is much, much better. This is Star Citizen Live. Ask the Devs, resource management. One of the coolest things that they showed at CitizenCon. Now that we've seen a few SCLs, this is the one thing that they showed playing in engine, not in squadron. This might be one of the closest things. Copium, I know. This might be one of the closest things we get to being in game. Now, not fully in game. We know resource management is very, very far away because of all the ships requiring it. But at the very least, in that Arena Commander experimental mode test, we might see it sooner than you think. Fingers crossed, right? So they had everything there to do it, and we'll see. Do they give a date? Okay, I didn't know that. I haven't seen the show, but I'm excited for this one, very much so. So, resource management, Star Citizen Live. There's a second half with, I think, Jeff Zanelli. We'll just do the part one and the first half today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another special edition of Star Citizen Not So Live. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. And if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's usually where we take about an hour out of the end of our week.
Turning the volume up.
We sit down with our developers and we discuss their work, their lives, their habits, their love of chicken. On this week's show, we are pre-taped because I'm going to Bar Citizen Milan this weekend, and we have a special guest here in the studio available to do a show live, so we thought we'd take advantage of that. Joining us on the show.
Does anybody care if Star Citizen Live is actually live? I don't. Not that much. As long as they take a thread of questions and they ask the most upvoted questions, and it's still a Q&A, I could care less. They could show it live on their Twitch channel or whatever and have a chat there. It's fun. But in general, I'm totally fine with them doing what they're doing here.
For the first half here, our
Especially if it's
members
good.
of the EU-PU feature team. We got Torsten and Guillermo. Torsten, Guillermo, welcome to the show.
And then you can edit out any problems.
There's nothing wrong with love for chicken.
There's nothing wrong with love for chicken.
Thank you.
We love chicken.
All right, so you're here today because you presented the resource management presentation at CitizenCon this year. And we collected some questions, and we tried to do a follow-up show about 2 weeks ago, and we unfortunately had some terrible network and computer-related problems. We weren't able to finish your show, so thank you for being here. Torsten, can I ask, what brings you to Manchester in person? It wasn't this. I don't have that kind of budget.
Oh, I actually thought it was this. Because they're not that far away. And you guys told me that flights are like mega cheap. It's like $40 for them to fly over there, right?
So actually it's two reasons. So one is the restructure that will happen next year. So meeting the folks that come over from the squadron team and get to know them. So because they will be working closely with me on the PU. And the second, more important for the community, is actually the release or the soon-to-be-released structural salvage.
Yeah, so he's meeting the teams that are coming over from Squadron, the people that are going to be working for him, because I know he leads the EU-PU team now. So, hell yeah.
Because we have our go, no-go at the end of the week, and because of the importance of the feature, we decided it makes sense to come over and help the team to get it ready.
Well, that's the virtue of
and then go, no go on structural salvage at the end of the week, which is, I assume, it's not Friday for them. Yeah.
Frankfurt just being a hop, skip, and a jump over the channel anyway.
Yeah.
So
nice. Big,
all right, so
big stuff.
A few weeks ago, we put up a thread collecting questions. We collected those questions from you, the Star Citizen community, and let you vote up which ones you wanted to see answer most. Then Guillermo and Torsten went through the questions and pulled the questions that they felt they had the best answers for, and we're just going to jump into it. So the first question, which actually is sort of answered by our SRV episode that just aired yesterday by the time people see this, will soft death ships be repairable? We know from ISC the answer is yes, but can you give us any?
No. So he must have said it wrong on ISC, right? Because we know the answer is intended to be yes, but in the game it does not function. Did Did Adam Parker ever respond to that at all? Like on Reddit or anything else? Like, oops, I meant like, it's the intention and it just kind of slipped out the wrong way. That happens. You know what I mean?
Any more information on this? How does this work?
No.
So the first thing is that soft death is a bit of a temporary solution. We don't have the full damage penetration. We showed a placeholder for it at CitizenCon.
Okay, so you can repair it. It costs money, but it doesn't work and it doesn't look repaired. Sounds like repairing perfectly in the game now. It sounds like normal repair when your ship is not soft death. So I would argue to say that it is in the game. Because doesn't that no jokes, not trying to be... That's exactly what happens in the game now, often with normal repair, no?
I think everybody saw the Maelstrom presentation with the ships breaking apart. So that's going to be part of it. What we right now have for soft death eventually will be more of a systemic thing in that some ships, if they kill your power plant or they kill all your relays or you have, a very bad crash landing and you no longer have wings or your ship is no longer able to fly or to move under its own power. There will be some degree of repairs you can do manually if you get spare parts or you've got engineers working on it. But as you mentioned, the SRB is also the solution when that ship cannot fly. There's nowhere to repair it on the field.
His shirt is sick.
Do the regular repairs there.
Yeah, so this is all intended stuff. Everything they talked about is obviously not currently in the game.
So I understand. So like I said, right now we have this soft death. It's this.
Like, what does even going back to a base mean in the current experience? How do I put a ship into a hangar to repair? It's a very it's a non-existent experience currently. I mean, I guess you can bring them down to like I don't know. Not Bountiful Harvest, like ArcCorp 141, landing pads at outposts or something like that. Oh, I guess, yeah, open landing pads at stations. I didn't even think about that part. Very true. Very true. Just like most of us. When we go to repair, we don't typically open a hangar bay. We just go to the pads.
The entire thing doesn't just destroy; it just becomes kind of a potentially useless hulk.
They're in the background.
With the SRB, we'll now be able to grab it with a tractor beam and pull it back to a repair station and get it repaired instead of waiting for the insurance payout.
The repair isn't in yet, so you will be able to move it, but.
And then Torsten just said repair isn't in yet. Okay.
Repairing, I think, doesn't. Like we didn't prepare for that yet, so there is no drop-off points yet with the SRV. But for the future, that will be the case, that you have like the dedicated drop-off points where you can then fix the ships that you cannot repair on site anymore, especially the bigger ships with, because there's the concept of size 1 and size 2 ship items you can replace, right? You can pull them out with a tractor beam and pull something or push something back in to that, whereas with like the bigger items, size 3 and size upwards, you cannot remove. So if they are destroyed, you lost them, and then you need to bring the ship that is now dead in the water into the hangar and have it repaired there.
Gotcha. So after 322, some version of you'll be able to bring the soft death ships back to specific places to get them repaired. No. So you can bypass the recovery thing. And then, of course, as Maelstrom and more elements of the physicalized damage system comes online, soft death itself goes away.
Yeah.
So does after 322, is that the date that whoever said it in chat, is that what you're referring to? That's not much of a date, but it certainly tells us when we're not going to get it. So that's a part of a date. They give a specific date. It's later? Okay, cool.
And it just becomes,
Q2?
Your ship can now be disabled through a variety of methods.
Q2 is so far away that we can't put any
and therefore
energy into
resolved
that.
And fixed through a variety of methods. Okay. Next
if
question.
It's not Q1, I'm not even.
Of the engineering role, how hard will it?
Do you know how many things will change? Okay, like let's talk about this for a second before they move on to the next question. If we're talking about Q2, and let's just say Yeah, it's what they're aiming for, which we know it's CIG. It's let's just take all the moving parts right now. Bunch of people coming from Squadron need to be brought into these teams. Yes, more bodies, more work, hopefully. But initially, it's going to be a lot of, all right, we're going to prioritize this. Now we could prioritize that. Oh, we have the resources to do this, and we never were able to do that. I think the beginning of the year is going to be quite crazy, and I imagine a lot of priorities are going to shift and things are going to change. So the only thing I'm putting my weight into right now is whatever's coming into 322, and the fact that they said that they're going to start development in Q1 for base building. That's pretty much, I think, the only things that might have weight in their foundations. Everything else I feel like is going to be incredibly fluid right now and all over the place. Although Resource Network, again, looked very there and in-game. And I think they've been working on it for, at least talking about it for, I think, 2 years. So the idea of this being a thing sooner than later might be more possible. I don't know. It just, I don't like, if you're saying Q2, you know when Q2 is? That's like a June patch. Are we really putting any weight in something coming in June? In November 2023? Come on. We know better than that.
Be for a solo player
That's not a
to
date.
fly a multi-crew ship like the Cutlass, Constellation, or anything bigger.
So it will.
All right, and I'm going to go back because we maybe talked over the question. So
Soft death itself goes away, and it just becomes, your ship can now be disabled through a variety of methods, and therefore resolved and fixed through a variety of methods. Okay. Next question. With the implementation of the engineering role, how hard will it be for a solo player to fly a multi-crew ship like the Cutlass, Constellation, or anything bigger?
this is the question.
So it will
The
be
question.
harder, but only it will be harder if you have a ship that already has a certain age. So if you have your brand new ship that you just pulled out of your hangar for the first time, the wear and tear is non-existent on it. So that means that there is no maintenance required. So if you
Is wear and tear based on the age of the ship or the age of the components? Or both? And how? That's interesting.
prepare the energy management on the ship, no matter the big the ship is, you can fly it on your own. But
Is wear and tear dependent on, like, the moment I bring it to a station and hit repair, is it brand new?
it really make sense? Because then you are suddenly on the move, then you might get attacked, so parts will get destroyed on your way. That will result in, you from the pilot seat have to get up and then walk over to those destroyed pieces and repair them. So yes, you can do it, but like it will be a real like pain to actually maintain your ship. So yeah.
This is pretty consistent with the messaging we've had since the beginning of this. You know, we introduced the idea of the engineer role at CitizenCon 2952, then followed up on it with an ISC towards the beginning of this year, and then you guys followed up on it with the resource management presentation at this year. So we've done 3 pretty, hefty deep dives into this idea of engineering and the resource management.
I think it's been very clear as well in the fact that, like, big ships are not meant to be soloed. I think they've communicated that very, very clearly as well, with minimum crew requirements and so on and so forth, right on the sale page. So anybody pissed off that they can't solo really big ships is one thing. Now, you got to remember, the question asked a Cutlass, right? So the reason the question used the Cutlass in the beginning is, that's a really small ship, crew of 2. How much worse is it going to be as a 2 crew ship versus a much larger ship like an 890 Jump? What's the difference? I think is more what the question was leaning on, right?
System. And through all 3 of them, it's been pretty clear, like, this doesn't make it impossible to operate by yourself. It's just going to make it easier and more effective if you bring friends, if you bring talented and skilled friends who understand these
AI
roles.
crew as well.
But if you're willing to put in the elbow grease,
Yeah.
And that was always very important to us, that we make sure like that we don't block away the content for players that really would like to fly out their ship.
Yeah.
And it works. They can travel from A to B, and like if they avoid combat and if they make sure that they like maintain it, like when they have the time to actually maintain it and bring down the wear and tear again, yeah, sure, it will run smoothly, like with fresh cars, right? So you can also have a fresh car that just doesn't break that easily, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it also comes down to the difference.
The key there is, if you didn't hear it, he said, if you avoid combat, right? So you come across the solo C2 with 696 SCU of gold, and you're a pirate, you're going to have an easy time, an easier time now than ever before, probably. And that pilot's going to have a hard time. And that's probably how it should be. But if that C2 was fully crewed, maybe it's going to be really difficult to bring that ship into a soft death state in comparison to what it is now, right? Because they're able to repair the power plant and the shields, and the shields are popping back up faster than you would have expected, and right? So that's the hope, is that there's some balance there in that way. Obviously, I think the turrets on the C2 are unfortunately placed and not very well placed. I think a lot of turrets in the game are very unfortunately placed and not very well placed for defense, that's the whole point of them. So I never quite understood that. But yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, like Sea of Thieves. I think that's a really good example. So I think it goes both ways, is that the pirate life can get really difficult if the crew is full, and really easy if the crew is one on these larger ships. And I think that's how it should be.
Between single fighters or any ships with interiors. And like, you know, if you're in a fighter, you lose a component, well, that's it. Your wing is gone. You cannot stop and, you know, attach it again. Or, well, you know, any of your internal components get hit, you're dead. When you're with a multi-crew ship, I mean, you can just take that damage and you know accept that you no longer have shield generators. The difference obviously is if you have a crew, they can put out fires, they can really mitigate that damage, or find solutions for stuff that if you're solo,
he's reiterating what I just said.
But again, the ship works. It's not like we're gonna purposefully make multi-crew ships bad, or like worse. It's kind of the opposite. If a multi-crew ship with a crew ends up being more survivable, more effective, because again it has all these redundancies. If it's on fire, you can put it out. If there's a missing component, you can replace it, which is something you don't get.
It's building an effective baseline for a single player and then finding ways to improve the experience by adding friends.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be the same if we're talking about turrets. Obviously, you have friends in the turrets. Well, you can shoot better because
your ship
you
is more
have
effective.
access to those guns. Or if you get boarded or somebody stows away, you have more friends inside. Well, again, that's also a plus.
Maybe with your friends, my friends aren't so good.
Yeah, well, they also,
David,
if you send a UPU playtest, yeah, it tends to be we kill our.
Jared playing. Any believers?
Accidentally, so.
You had something you were thinking about adding there, Torsten.
What?
No? Okay, good.
Oh.
Let's see. Next question is about repair. Are mini games planned to fix things, or is it just nothing but magic beams
Good question.
Over and over again?
So there were plans for having more bespoke repair, but that will not be part of the initial release. We will just go for the simple solution first, and then we will observe how that actually is perceived by the community. And if there is the necessity to actually make it more complex or more bespoke per item, then sure, we will think about that. But for now, it is really a very simple repair mechanic for the items, and then we will see. Because what we don't want to do is like you need to read a handbook to actually understand, like, okay, what item do I actually need? What resistor do I need? Like what?
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought process there. I mean, does anybody have issues with that? I think my point of view was I just don't want a beam, right? I would rather go up to it and press a button and just have the character just have an animation that can be canceled. That's it. That was my only gripe with it, is just why did it have to be a beam? because it's simpler. But if they decide to not go with the more bespoke stuff, I do hope that over time they just add simple animations with repair mechanics, kind of things, just because it's just I think it's just more interesting than beams. But maybe not. Maybe you guys prefer beams because they're a little bit more you're in control. You're not in an animation. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I prefer the animation for that specific thing because I just think it's a little bit more realistic. You know, you're not feeling your character's hands doing the thing, but it would visually look like you were. I think it would be more immersive than a beam, but a beam would give you more control. So whatever your preference is.
Capacitor, that doesn't make sense that we have to make people study our game to actually be able to play it. So it's still a game. We are a simulation-driven game, so we want to tailor to that. But yeah, we really want this feature also to be out, so we don't want to like overcomplicate it and then block the release of it. Yeah. So
it's hard because there isn't one brush you can paint all Star Citizens with. Yeah. There are folks who want that 15-person multi-crew capital ship experience. There are people who want to be alone in a starfarer out in the wilderness, you know, just helping people with nobody else. Like this. And then there's 100 brushes in between. So finding that sweet spot is always a bit difficult. But I agree with this idea that, you know, you get it out in a simplistic in a functional form, and then you see how it fits with everything else that, you know, makes up the entire.
Yeah, this is a decent point. Maximoon says, "I hate animations. They get pretty old, pretty fast, and watching the same lame hand gestures for the 100th time is not a good time." Fair enough.
Physicalized damage system, and then you know it's like, okay, if it does need more complexity, then we add more complexity, and it could be that all the other complexity we add for all the other systems is plenty, and repair is just fine with, you know, a simple beam kind of thing. So
yeah, and though that applies to actually repairing the item with the beam, obviously you still have the damage control of the whole ship, which involves, you know, you can have fires, you can have bad atmosphere, you can have, you know, well, actually loss of atmosphere or well, toxic atmosphere due to a fire, or you could also have
this is all unique repairs.
Relays being knocked out, and you need to figure out which items to, you know, turn off or turn on to compensate and keep fighting as well as you can until somebody can repair that. So there is already a degree of complexity to the damage handling, but yeah, the main...
Yeah, all the examples he gave were all mini games. So they're already there. They're just not there for the individual components.
The main thing is going to be right now for repairing just the beam, and we'll see.
Yeah, but actually you mentioned that we already have some items that need bespoke repair. So we have the fuses for the relay that needs to be exchanged, so that is a type of repair. We also have life support that is its own type of complexity with the scrubbers that you need to exchange to actually, like, at some point they will deplete. So this is also something that can be counted as maintenance or repair in this regards. Then, yeah, like Guillermo just said, fire is its own danger. So that is definitely something that has a bespoke counter to it, which is the extinguisher or even venting the rooms.
And correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think the expectation is to have that experience more often. Right? That the relays will be the thing that you're doing more often. The components failing are the more rare things, is my assumption.
So there are some things that are already a bit more complex than, like, in comparison what we showed at CitizenCon, repairing the power plant, which is, yeah, you use the beam to repair it. But yeah, as said, so we have already a lot of complexity, and well, I wouldn't say that our team is the best in handling multi-crew gameplay, but like we try to be good, and it's really hard to manage. Like, even with the amount of people that we had on the ship, you saw us fail. And
I mean, what other teams focus on multi-crew gameplay? They did mining, salvage. What other teams were doing multi-crew gameplay outside of the turrets on ships? a little bit of the mission team, a little bit, but not entirely yet. Right? DJ, we can't say you yet until we get multi-crew gameplay in Arena Commander. We know it's on the list, but we haven't played it yet.
CitizenCon demo. We blew up. That wasn't intention that we blew up. We wanted to have a nice success at the end of the demo, but yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, let's leave it in.
The goal was
so
not to fail.
there's a lot of complexity already there.
You make a very good point. I want to be sure we shot it. Now, unfortunately, we had to, certain aspects of your presentation, it says we had to rush through because you were, unfortunately, somebody had to be scheduled after the Star Engine presentation, and they ate up a lot of time on that stage, and deservedly so. But one of the key hallmarks as you were developing the presentation is not wanting to fake anything, not wanting to script anything. You were going to set up the scenario and just fly the ship, and whatever was going to fail, however it was going to fail, and you were going to deal with it however you were going to deal with it.
Yeah, I like that.
And I really appreciated that when, watching it going, oh, they didn't succeed. It's like, well, sometimes that's what's going to happen. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of Star Citizen is we try to present as honest and as forthright a picture of things as we can whenever possible. And that, yeah, it's like we tried to save it. We didn't do it that time.
Yep.
Speaking of that demonstration, this next question says, earlier in ISC, we saw subcomponents for generators, coolers, and all that stuff. And it even has its own damage model. But in the CitizenCon demo, it looks like this type of engineering doesn't exist. Have subcomponents been replaced by relays? Or they just weren't part of that demo?
So, I mean, I guess the fuses for the relays are part of the subcomponents we have. And we also, the life support system also has a set of subcomponents, the scrubbers, for example.
And not only the scrubbers, but
yeah. And well, we were also thinking, maybe some components we're thinking about.
His shirt is so cool.
May need to be subcomponents of maybe the CPU or of the avionics system or of the power plant. So yes, but only in the way to say it would be like, yes, we have some components, they're still going to exist in some form, but only if it really makes sense if it's adding some functionality. Because as we're just modeling health with.
You don't need to drill down on every single thing just because we need to drill down on every single thing.
I mean, it's something that was a big part of the development process a few years ago. They showed it to us a bunch of times, and it's something that we all expect to be in. It's the reason the question was asked. And it sort of was answered, but I think the question was in relation to power plant subcomponents, shield subcomponents. We've seen animations of them opening 3 little slots. You put the slot in, and it changes the characteristics of that component slightly in one direction or another. Maybe we don't need that. I'm saying I don't think that's necessary. But the question was sort of responding to that.
Yeah, that's like our credo, or it started to be our credo, which is like we really want to have meaningful gameplay rather than complex gameplay for the complexity's sakes. So this is like something that is starting to be very, very important for us. And but also to answer concretely on that question. So we have them on our plan.
Okay.
They are not currently planned for the initial release because there are several reasons, but like especially content would just kill us if we would just say, by the way, we want to have some components for every item.
Okay.
And then,
we're often fond of saying bring it to the point of realism, then bring it back to the point of fun.
Exactly.
Like this, I just saw this wonderful 25th anniversary documentary for Half-Life.
Yeah, exactly.
Done by a guy I really respect, Dan O'Dwyer, who he and his team made it for Valve and whatnot. And there's this wonderful moment where Gabe is just like, I don't play video games to be real. It's like I got realism in the real world. That's not fun. It's like I got to play video games to be fun.
I love how fucking ironic was this just entire statement. How does he sit in the chair and say, like, we're doing the same thing when I have to ride a train and 14 elevators right? Come on.
Always this.
I get that the response from Torsten is the right one, but Jared, we bring it to this place and then we bring it back for fun. We're still riding trains. It's still incredibly painful to move around, some of the locations because it's not about fun. It's about art.
Balance. I think there's this misnomer that everything has to be uber realistic, and I'm like, no, it has to be evocative of realistic. It has to have a sense of realism and stuff whenever possible, but you always got to bring it back to fun, and again, not dragging things down with unnecessary chores.
Yeah.
I mean, how many do you?
I just, how do you sit here? How do you sit here in front of Star Citizen and literally just say what you just said?
DLCs have we ever
And be a member of the team that works on this game?
seen for a game that just seems like a whole new world of chores have been added? It's like, why was this added to this game? I didn't need more chores. So
The game's
especially
full of
something
chores.
that we always have to consider. Like every bit that we add adds to the time it actually takes to get to the gameplay that you actually want to.
All MMOs have time sinks, though. Agreed. But let me try to phrase it because you're right. But I think like my feelings are justified as well. Are the time sinks even remotely similar? Disco Lando isn't the senior game dev. He is the representative of what the game is. We see and talk to him more than anybody else at the company. I am allowed to be critical about the things he says. Period. Especially when they're that disconnected to reality of playing the game, right? Yeah, time sinks doing things. So, are you doing anything on a train? Maybe interacting with the like inventory system or things like that, right? But I think what the person that's responding to me is responding to is you die in a game and you got your death run, right? You got to go back to your body and get your stuff. There's purpose behind that. That is similar still to riding the train or doing, there are some things there, but it does feel like, and again, obviously, you do not have to go through a train every time. I think the best example is what I saw somebody say in chat earlier is selling cargo. So let's use the example of selling cargo on a normal ship and then use selling cargo on a whole sea. Selling cargo on a normal ship, land in your hangar, run to an elevator, take said elevator, run to another elevator, take said elevator, run to a terminal, use terminal, reverse the operation, do it again. The whole sea is 10 times worse. I don't even have to give the example. We all know it's horrible. That's the stuff where saying the chore comment from Jared makes me want to, just go insane because there are so many stupid chores that don't make any sense. Paying off your fines. Why do I have to run to a certain terminal in Grimhex to do it, right? There's so many little chores that can be addressed. And with them going through and fixing quality of life things, when they ask for, hey, what's your biggest quality of life issue? That should be one of them, right? For a lot of us. So there's a little too much friction with some things. The death run, I think, is one of the ones that makes sense, to be honest. But to sell your cargo? Come on. But then that will change with the persistent hangars. You spawn your cargo in your hangar, right? Yeah. But what if... I guess that's just the way it's going to be. So you're right. That's the reason why they haven't fixed it. Yeah. So we're probably just got to wait.
Consume.
Yeah. No, I think actually one subcomponent that you may see is since the resource network doesn't apply only to ships, it also applies to locations. And one example is for puzzles, for repairing a subnetwork in a particular location as part of a mission, you may get, you need to swap out these parts, which may be bespoke or may also be the same kind of parts we use in SIPs. So it really depends on the level of complexity we want to add to a particular area of gameplay.
Oh, I missed what he's talking about here.
Something that we always have to consider, like every bit that we add adds to the time it actually takes to get to the gameplay that you actually want to consume.
Yeah. No, I think actually one subcomponent that you may see is, since the resource network doesn't apply only to SIPs, it also applies to locations. And one example is for puzzles, for repairing a subnetwork in a particular location as part of a mission, you may get,
Oh, I think I know what he's referencing. How many of you guys did the Pyro preview? So I think this is referenced all over Pyro. And I think that this is a Pyro mission. Yeah, Sladowug's got it in chat. There were these little blue canisters that were speckled all over the stations and some of the outposts where some of you saw it, right? I imagine if you didn't play it, you saw some streams. There were these little blue canisters that looked like they were connected to some sort of power system. So yeah, I think that there's some gameplay there where those fail. Oh yeah, wall panels as well were there. So I saw the canisters. They were at the stations, and they were also at some landing areas, I believe. They were definitely in the location. It was like a bunker mission, but you EVA'd to the station, and there were these blue canisters. They were absolutely power related. And you could see that they were definitely more polished, as in like they weren't part of the art. They look like they were meant to be interacted with. They could be scrubbers, life support scrubbers as well. But regardless, it looks like something that could be removed, replaced, and damaged. So yeah.
Need to swap out these parts, which may be bespoke or may also be the same kind of parts we use in SIPs. So it really depends on the level of complexity we want to add to a particular area of gameplay.
So we're talking about relays. We have relays for power. Are there any plans for additional relay type points for coolant, fuel, or data?
So all of those actually go through the same set of relays. That means generally if you knock out a relay, all the resources you want to get to the items stop flowing that way.
Okay.
What we do have is kind of the opposite. It's relays that do not allow some resources through. This makes sense if you think of a starfare. We have the external tanks on one side and you have the internal tanks, and when you're giving fuel to some dude, you don't want to be draining your internal fuel tanks. And as far as the game is concerned, they are the same thing. They're just fuel tanks. Why cannot I take fuel from them?
I mean, you may want to if you're out of fuel in your main tanks and you're in your dispersible ones, but you have a lot of fuel in your mains and you want to share some of that with somebody to get them on their feet. I don't know. That should be an option. So
we added relays that do not allow that kind of connection between both sides of the network, but we still obviously can have an alternate bypass that is turned off by default, and if you want to do that,
there you go.
We would allow it. But yes, a general rule, most SIPs or most situations, you're going to have all the resources going through the same route, and if you lose the connection, well, that's it.
Cool. I like that answer.
I really like this question, actually. So obviously, there's a generic setup for ships.
Now, can we just get the starfare to fucking work, man? Please.
And different ships will have different numbers of relays and different complexities and stuff. We've been using the Hammerhead as a wonderful example. We showed the Hercules at CitizenCon, so like this. Will there be a difference between the problems and issues and the capabilities between manufacturers? Like they're specifically asking, he goes, will Drake have more electrical faults on average than like an Origin ship? Drake owners suffer, quite a bit in the Precision universe, mostly just because they like Drake. But is there anything manufacturer? I'll get off of it. So are there any manufacturer-specific things built in for this?
There are actually two answers to that question.
Okay.
So the first part is, every ship will have a somehow bespoke layout of where the relays will be located and how they will be connected. There will be differences between military ships, civilian ships, with military ships having
redundancy,
more relays than civilian ships to allow for more redundancy.
Yeah.
There will be also differences between like manufacturers, because just like the way that their ships are looking, because we have to fit the relays on them, and that also dictates how the relay or the resource network is actually set up. And so there comes the first difference from.
Okay.
And the second is,
And I like that difference is Drake might just be more simple, but because it's more simple, it'll break more often. Like you break off one piece and it's a little more difficult to recover, something like that, maybe.
ship item manufacturers. So it's less Drake itself. So if you have like a very expensive power plant you put in your Drake ship, it will not suddenly like work worse
Because it's sitting in a Drake house.
because it's sitting in a Drake ship. No, it will.
If that's how it worked, it would be very funny, though. Right? It would be very funny if that's how it functions.
Still, like the wear and tear rate will be different. So if you invest more money in your ship items, they are less likely to be affected by wear and tear. Malfunctions might be even triggered less often. So item choice will matter in that regards. So even like coming back to the single player, so if you invest a lot of money into your ship and buy the best items ever, you even reduce the amount of like interactions you have to have with the item. So it's more likely that you don't have to run around alone in your ship and try to fix it.
Yeah, and also
Well, and what I hope, instead of it being the most expensive, what I hope is, and I think this is the direction that we've always been going in, is you have military, you have competition, you have so on and so forth, right? So competition drives are going to work at, incredible speeds and be really, really good, but they're going to require repairs all the time. Industrial drives are meant to work all the time, right? Am I on top of everything? I don't know, man. Great minds think alike. I don't know. I haven't seen the video.
in addition to brands, I think we already have it in game. You have the different classes of items. In the sense, you have the competition, military, industrial,
I'm
civilian.
sorry, I had no idea.
That's also
it just
part
makes
of the
sense.
balance in
Yeah.
there. Competition item would probably have a very short lifespan because it's, we expect you to, to go after the race, go back, change it altogether or repair it, while an industrial or military.
And it's so important because this is there's not a lot of separation between components right now. Word for word. I mean, because it just makes sense, right? And there's not a lot of separations with the components right now in terms of there's a meta. You just go for military, but you want reasons to go for something else. And that's why I guess I really work for them, right? In this case, because I was really on top of this one. But it just makes sense, right? Is you only go for one thing, and there's meta because they didn't add this aspect to it yet. The trade-offs aren't really there. There's some minor trade-offs. If you look at industrial, I think they're more resilient to distortion damage, but it's very minimal. So they haven't really added it. Military should be really expensive. I don't think military should be purchasable. Military should be, well, it should be purchasable, but after earning reputation with the military, right? Something like that. Once you hit a certain rank with them, then you can purchase military components. There's that aspect that doesn't exist as well, right? Where some of the really good stuff or meta stuff is not locked behind anything. You just go to the store and have it on day one. So there's so many things that should be a thing. Non-insurable is debatable. Okay. That'll come down to just gameplay balance. Is that fun? Is that enjoyable for people? I imagine most people aren't going to enjoy that. Just so you know, Wheel, I'm in agreement with you. I love the idea of none of your upgraded components sticking with you being a thing, because I think it creates a need for crafters. It creates a need for player economies. We all start working together to help each other, and You're gonna risk it. You're gonna have a heart pounding moment when you go out there with your best components trying to kill the most difficult enemies, right? Same with armor, weapons, all those things. We don't get really heart pounding moments in the game right now because there's no risk. So I want all the risk in the game possible, but it's just going to come down to them deciding what the best choice is. But don't think I'm not agreeing with you.
Military part is expected to be in the field for a longer time, so that will affect the wear and tear rate, and obviously therefore
So
some of the other
component system and everything,
Yeah.
not all Drake ships will be created equally.
Yeah,
You'll
so
get to customize the ship.
The grades will get a different meaning, like the types will get a new meaning to that.
Yeah,
Also,
so it's going to be a complete rebalance, it sounds. Also, Wheel said, doing a raid on an anvil compound to get a military component would be cool. I mean, watch CitizenCon, man. Blueprints are a thing. Blueprints are... How do you think we're going to get said blueprints? Either through reputation or through theft.
Since, again,
Or
this goes back to
you know?
the damage system, which also... Because, without damage penetration and stuff like that, we don't actually get the fires or the actual damaging of the components. There the ships also become a bit more relevant, the armor, what materials the manufacturers use normally. We already have some differences planned on, this brand usually uses this type of alloy, which has some certain properties, which is how you get lighter ships or heavier ships or less armor ships.
Yeah. Also, I want to respond to this comment, too, because I think it's really important to have this discussion. Can I get around wear and tear by claiming my ship? I believe all this is meaningless until claim timers are massively increased. We can tell they want to raise the claim timers, right? You could see it. They really, really want to do it because they've done it kind of prematurely. They've tried to. And I think that all of these things need to come online first. There'll be the exploit of claiming to get around the system for a patch to ensure that everything is in working order, and then they're going to hit us with the claim timers and the prices. There has to be a trade-off for claiming, right? And the trade-off should be increased timers and maybe ever-increasing timers and cost to claiming, right? Or something. I don't know what the right choice is, but then, SRV towing matters, search and rescue matters, and add the same thing to medical, right? Hitting backspace should not be the go-to. But at the same time, it is not fun to wait 20 minutes for somebody to come get you, right? So, the medical beacon system should hopefully one day work with NPCs. So when nobody claims yours, somebody just shows up. And they should only be sent out to people within your area, And that'll work a lot better when the game has more players in a server and so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of things that we don't like about the game that are simply resolved by letting them cook and the game being a little bit more polished and finished. And I just don't know if we'll ever see more players per server until we do, right? And CitizenCon was a very exciting time for the server meshing demo stuff, and it's just a matter of waiting, and waiting sucks. We've been doing it forever. We're coming up, I believe this is the 12th year of development or more. That is a long time to wait, right?
Sometimes I feel bad about making fun of Drake owners, but
Expensive
we're all
auto
just having
defibrillator
fun,
one-time
folks.
use. That would be nice as well.
It's in the lore of the universe that the universe generally looks down on Drake owners. None of us think anything less of you. Think I am a Drake guy. If you look at my ships, I'm mostly a Drake person. I love the Drake aesthetic. I'm a big fan of Jim Martin, who invented most of the Drake aesthetic, going all the way back to the Cutlass. So just know that it's always in good fun, because you've all suffered clearly enough with bad taste liking Drake. I'm one of you. Next question. Will there be any kind of danger to the engineer in case of bad component manipulation?
Oh, good question.
Component blowing up in your face?
Well, the obvious one is if something overheats, it's part of the things that drives into the malfunctions or the dangers popping up. So yeah, bad heat management, for example, could suddenly
cause the fire.
lead to a power surge going through the ship and killing components, or a fire starting in front of you, maybe setting you on fire if you're unfortunate. So yeah, to some degree, you can make things worse. You can always make things worse.
I think things should blow up. No?
But we're obviously
Do you think a component should blow up and there should just be no component there anymore? Unrepairable, just gone? Or it can be there just dead, but it does a little bit of damage burst around them?
we're not gonna insta kill you just because you punch at a component to fix it.
I think they should.
And actually, that's the good part of the entire change that will come, which is we are more item focused. So it is less like a dramatic death with the entire ship directly exposed. No, you will start losing items first, and then you might be dead in the water for a long time.
Yeah.
Until someone picks you up, and that is all the consequence. You're just dead in the water if the right components break at the right time. If the wrong component breaks at the wrong time, so if your quantum drive, for example, explodes because of a malfunction, that might have a consequence that is very similar to what we have right now. That
So it sounds like there is
explodes.
explosions
the power
as an
plant
option.
specifically. Soft death really, what it sort of models is either the power plant, died in a peaceful way, so to speak, or you lost your relays.
I didn't
something like that,
rewatch.
which you just lost power. What we currently have for big explosions is more like the reactor took a critical hit. It went, on its critical load. Nobody did anything about it. It exploded.
This is in line with
I don't wanna,
everything they've ever said.
Focus too much on this, but the idea that I could pull a component out and work on it and potentially catch a fire and potentially cause a fire, rather, makes me think of the opportunities for sabotage.
It's something we thought about, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, since you can also damage the components with FPS weapons, and obviously you can just take out the fuses or even small components. You can still.
I mean, I guess what he just said is kind of an argument against the things exploding and causing damage for sabotage, because it would be kind of messed up if you shot a component with an FPS weapon and then it blew up and then killed you, right?
Kill them all together. There's a lot of damage a person hiding inside your ship could do.
I'm just thinking about this. A lot of Star Citizens, have come from a game like EVE Online or something where it's you pretend to be somebody's friend, you become a member of their crew. In the course of a mission, you slowly.
I know some of you are out there sneaking around, waiting for me to trust you too much.
Pulling components out and tuning them incorrectly to cause malfunction. It's like there's a whole gameplay opportunity there that's exciting.
I think with the last system, we have a very good counter for that, which is once you find a guy,
lots of smilers. Taking note.
Let's see. With ship life support, will opening doors automatically cycle airlocks to minimize wasted oxygen in the atmosphere?
No.
Yeah, like if there's an airlock, airlocks work like an airlock is supposed to work. They will actually cycle in, probably ideally in a smart way. If there's good air outside and good air inside, no need to cycle. But in most cases, the airlock will behave as a real-world airlock suit. On the other side, if you open the door of, let's say, you open the cargo bay of an HU while you're in space, well, there goes your air.
Yeah.
But not all ships are ideal for all scenarios. Some of them are, have these EVA suit lockers, and they have these double airlocks and, particular paths to get to space, which are safe. In others, they are not really that good for that. Obviously, you can always bend your ship so you don't lose the air, but that also comes with its own challenges. Your engineer or whoever is on the console needs to manage it properly. So that's also where part of the ship roles will come in, which are better built for certain scenarios versus others.
Yo, Stisig, relax. So he immediately goes, that's stupid when he says the air out of the airlock, and then says throw him out of the airlock immediately instead of letting him cook. And, well, I guess I do this all the time, so I can't blame you. But the being like, hey, I don't like that idea. I'm never saying throw them out of the airlock. This dev is garbage. When he said 1,000 good answers so far, this ISC or SCL is significantly better than any one we've had. Yeah, you're like me. You should be embarrassed. And the next response immediately after was, we can take in the air, then open the doors. So it was there. Interaction not allowed this morning. Maybe you're delayed. I just responded. You're fine.
You don't want to add too much automation to it because you want to leave the agency in the hands of the players.
I just think you're being rude to the dev. That's all.
To be both good at managing it and to be
Who's
bad.
awesome.
That's a certain agency too. Like some people like being bad at Star Citizen.
Did anybody notice the MISC fuel tank on coffee mug? That's a coffee mug.
Yeah.
On David.
Yeah, we cannot make it too safe, else you don't get hurt and it's not funny on YouTube.
Will we need to memorize ship layouts, or will we have the ability to target subsystems as well as our point of impact directly? Or will that require more advanced scanners or dedicated scout ships like the Terrapin or Hornet Tracker to allow sharing this information
Scanning.
across the wing of
Lamau.
ships? So basically, is there a reward for the more that you personally understand the layouts of ships and where to shoot and where these components are for bullet penetration and stuff? Or is the scanner system just going to take it all for us?
Well, we're going to have sub-component targeting. It kind of exists in some form in the game, but it's not really...
I think Yogi showed it even at CitizenCon.
Yeah, actually, for the turrets, obviously, it will also be used for stuff like, try to hit the power plant or try to hit any other internal component. At the same time, yes, if you know it, if you know where each ship's components are, you already know where to shoot. Obviously, the targeting helps you, but anything you bother to learn or any experience you have is always going to be superior.
Give you an advantage.
Especially when it comes back, you mentioned sabotage. In that case, your use of scanners is a bit more limited, and knowing exactly where you need to go, how to deal the most damage, it's always a good skill to have.
I think any question around scanning right now is kind of problematic because we know everything about scanning. It has to change because it's trash.
We talked a little bit about scanners and anti-scanners last week with the FPS and flight teams and stuff. And Chris has always maintained throughout the course of this project's development that there will be counters to all of these technologies. It's like as you develop scanning, you also develop jammers and stuff. And it's like if I've got a level 2 scanner, then my scanner can overcome a level 1 jammer. But if they've got a level 3 jammer, then my level 2 scanner is going to have some trouble until I go and swap it out for a level 4 scanner. This constant kind of escalation that happens in the real world. So yeah, if you find
Jared
yourself
explaining video games
jammed and whatnot, you can't target stuff. If you do know this stuff,
doesn't Jared know we don't do that in this video game? It's just about the spaceships. Doesn't he know?
I'm very familiar with the Connie Phoenix, and I know that the big central relay is right around here, and the damage system, the full damage system is online with proper penetration and everything, and you can draw fire on that. You'll be rewarded for that kind of information.
We even had that already in our demo, right? So we have a faked
penetration.
They faked things? Torsten, how dare you?
Penetration there. And because we knew where we need to shoot, we could potentially target the power plant.
And ships have weak points, not necessarily made on purpose, but simply of the way they're built. The hull is not the same thickness in all places. The ship components, are not distributed evenly. So knowing, if your weapon can make it through the hole and the shields, and that when that.
This is a very weird response because all of this stuff is subject to so many caveats, and it's a bug or is it a feature? So
particular part of the ship, it's easier to hit the components. I think that's always a win, something good to practice and learn.
It's going to be interesting to see how that affects pilots and the way they fly too, knowing where your weak spots are and learning to not expose them during combat and stuff. It's got a lot. The resource management system has a lot of knock-ons to many aspects of gameplay.
And actually, that is huge. What we're all looking forward to, right? So we really want this, that maneuvering and knowing your ship well gives you an advantage over you don't care about your ship.
For single crew vehicles,
because literally nobody takes care of their ship the way you would really take care of your ship in the real world, right?
How will the pilot be notified that components need to be addressed?
Well, your ship will be on fire. No, but it's currently you already have. With the new MFDs, you're going to have probably a better display. You already know that you have this little picture of your ship in the MFD, And usually when you get hit, you see the the red mark, and the components slowly go red from blue. That's going to be part of it. Obviously, you also get the messages. I think if you play in the game right now, we already have the first set of misfires. These are the old ones, the seal failure or thruster surge, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're going to keep seeing that. That's also part of the new system. They are triggered.
Okay. There'll be new stuff
using the new logic, but they're still the same effects. But yeah, in general, it's going to be mostly that, because as a pilot, you have very limited, on a single seat fighter, you have very limited action you can take against that. Obviously, you have your triangle capacitor, wheel. You can, put more power to the seals if your things are getting hit. But at the end of the day, if you are losing a cooler or something like that, other than turning off items altogether, there's really not a lot you can do, which is, the weak point of fighters. They don't really have that staying power in the end.
We're almost done. We've got time for maybe 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll let you go.
That's a lot of
questions. Is
questions.
the life support
Nice.
system in a room also tied to a fuse that can break? So I might lose access to controlling a room's atmosphere and be forced to go deal with the fire personally instead of just venting it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's even
Nice.
a bit more than just that the life support itself is connected to a relay. It's like each room has a vent that is then connected to its own relay. So it might even be that if
Just
the
the vent
relay
gets
is
knocked?
destroyed or not connecting to the vent anymore, that you just lose connection to one of the rooms. Whereas like if you hit the life support cannot provide the rooms anymore. So that would be a total failure. But there's the concept of the vents that are sitting in each room, and they control the composition of the room, the temperature of the room. So if that, then the vent loses the connection.
Do you think they're going to lower the amount of oxygen we have in our suits? Or like a whole nother characteristic of the suits that we use, or that they're going to be able to hold more oxygen? I think, like, just thinking about this situation, like while he was talking, I was just like envisioning it of putting my suit on while this fire is going on. The relay's down. I can't open the door from the panel, so I have to go over there and then Squadron 42 press F until the door opens, and then that vents all the oxygen out because I've already vented the oxygen out of the rest of the ship, and then open that door that vents it, fire goes out. How cool would that be? That'd be sick.
You lose the control over that room, and you have to go
Replaceable
in there
O2 tanks for the suit?
or
That'd be
go
nice.
to the relay, fix the relay, so that you have the control over the room again, or you go directly into the room to fix what broke there.
Yeah, or you could just open a
Yeah, I
door.
just imagine.
Or,
but
or,
yeah.
or open a door.
It
Yeah,
can
that's
be
like-
dangerous in space.
I'm confused. How are they going to make this gameplay fun and engaging the 10th time we do it? I just don't think it can happen super, super often. Right? I don't think it can happen all the time. I think this has to happen sometimes.
You can do that.
Yeah, actually, that is also a good counter. So because what
You wanted to see the live reaction? Guys, this is my brother. This is Dupian.
Is that the camera?
That's the camera.
Hey, what's up?
Say hi to my brother.
Yes, that's a perfect emote.
Very pog.
Yeah.
Yes.
what the question was before, like, do we automatically cycle? No, and that helps there, right? So you can open the door to the room that is
Somebody called you Giga Mike.
Nice.
Yeah. He actually like goes to the gym and stuff.
currently not connected anymore, and make then oxygen flow from one room to the other, or even vent the other room so that the room that is currently on fire, you don't have any control anymore, is then venting the other room with itself so that you can deplete the fire there.
While we're still talking about life support, where does the air come from? Is it stored in tanks, or does the life support component
does
take
air come
electricity
from?
and simply generate air?
Yeah, well, that is an open discussion right now. So it might change. So as of now, we have a tank that stores the atmosphere that you have in your rooms. So if you have a room, let's take an example with one room, and you want to vent that room.
Each room
We
has
don't
a tank.
vent the atmosphere in that room outside. We vent it into an auxiliary storage so that you don't lose it, because we see the atmosphere as a finite resource, and you should really care about your atmosphere in space because it's a precious resource, right? And so you vent it into the storage, so you have the room now completely empty with the atmosphere, and if you decide to fill the room again, it is taking the atmosphere from that storage back in. Sure, we also thought about, okay, what happens when you accidentally vent it? So we have some auxiliary atmosphere sticks that you can put in, and then we, by chemical reaction, magically create atmosphere for that room or for the rooms of the ship. But the idea is that you always have these storage that you have to manage. So you fill it because and you have this concrete.
Bro, and they already have the UI. Just use the refueling UI. It's exactly the same, basically. I like the idea so far.
Finite amount of atmosphere on your ship that you have to manage.
Yeah, and we also separate it along that way in the sense that
I wonder what the other discussion was, what the other option was.
there are tanks for oxygen and inert gases, but also for waste gases that we don't want in the atmosphere at all. There's different tanks. So yeah, managing it also limits how quickly you can get rid of good or bad air in both cases.
But also a nice way to catch atmospheres, actually, if you lost, you did mismanagement and your auxiliary tanks are empty and you're breathing through your suit and you're depleting the oxygen from your suit. So what you can do is go into an atmosphere of a planet, open all the doors, and then suddenly all the atmosphere rushes in, you close the doors and go up again.
I think what is said in chat is a cooler option. Starfarer air delivery gameplay. That would be cool.
Just have to make sure that the atmosphere of the planet is actually breathable. But that is also a valid way to fill your ship back with atmosphere.
It's kind of like, I'm imagining those cans of Perrier from
from
Spaceballs.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a good answer.
2 questions left.
I hope they keep it that way.
How often will we encounter malfunctions and fires in normal gameplay? This question comes up after
Every time, and every time it's the same answer. It's fresh ships, very unlikely for any malfunctions. There might be some that are happening, but very minor ones. So you can even ignore them and live with them. But if you have a ship that has several hundred hours and the wear and tear is really, really low or really, really high, then yeah.
I think we need to understand what he means by a ship with several hundred hours, because again, it's the components that fail, not the ship.
You have to maintain it more often.
Yeah.
But we really want to make sure that it is not annoying for players. But this is something that we will balance once we have it out there and players give us feedback on it.
Yeah, it's really more about, for the long-term maintenance, it's more about some items being a bit less, I say, reliable. If you keep using it, it's kind of a way of telling you, hey, use something new. And with salvage and all the ways you have to get components, it's not that hard. Or you have to pay more attention to your components. But stuff like fires or anything really critical that is crippling, you're not, your ship is not going to randomly burst into flames. That's more of a consequence of damage control. You're in a fight, you take a direct hit to a relevant component, you get an electrical fire. But so you shouldn't expect that to be cruising around Stanton and suddenly 3 rooms are on fire and you die.
But we also want to reward player choices there. That is, if you decide to run your ship only with 20% of the performance it could run in, have the power plant always run at 20%. So basically underpower your ship. That also has an impact on the malfunction rate. So the less you push your ship,
I feel like
the
they
more
thought about
likely it is
nearly
that
everything.
there won't be any malfunctions. But also the other way, if you are in a combat scenario and you want more than 100% out of your ship items, sure, that will drum.
Forgets to equip fire extinguisher. I guess I lose an hour of progress. Yeah, deserved. That's kind of the idea behind all this, I think, is that you have to come prepared. So yes, it's really annoying to do all the preparation stuff, but you only should have to do that once, right? If your ship doesn't die as often and you're not claiming it all the time, shouldn't it have food, drink, medical, all that stuff in it, right? You prep your ship one time and it should be there all the time. we shouldn't be going through this claim cycle, and you shouldn't think about the game the way we think about it now with this process, because this is coming nowhere near where we are right now. So the game is going to be very different when the system's in, right?
Automatically increase the chances for malfunctions there.
Is there an RNG factor in
Prepare for 30 minutes and get ganked in 2 minutes? Says you. That doesn't happen to anybody.
this though?
Yeah, sure.
Is it conceivable that somebody's just going to have a really bad string of luck?
Yeah, but it's dependent on the wear and tear, and it's the health of the item. So we have parameters that make
your luck.
Yeah, gives us more control over when these are happening. But sure, there will be some RNG.
Yeah, for some of them, it's the conditions are more like thresholds. You know, you are overheating by this amount. You have the power throttle over this amount. So you know, we know you're pushing your ship. At that point, you know, we start rolling a dice from time to time, where either nothing happens, or you know, one of the maybe minor malfunctions happens, or the moderate ones happen. For other cases, you know, we just want to say, you know, based on the wear and tear, even you know, at that point it has to be very, very rare in the sense that, you know, yes, we do it randomly, but maybe the mean time is supposed to be days or something like that.
Yeah, it's like
Since,
calm down,
it could
everybody.
happen, but we know.
Calm down.
We're more interested in the player choice aspect. Overheating, you know, running your ship at overclock all the time, stuff like that, which we think is more like, you know, the cost for that choice you made.
I get you. Last question, and normally we avoid when questions and stuff like that, just because we've been talking about resource management engineering for about 13 months now, since we first introduced it at CitizenCon last year. There's a lot coming to Star Citizen in 2024. At CitizenCon, we did 2 days worth of look at all this stuff. A big
If
chunk
he says 71 ISCs again, I'm gonna cringe.
of the squadron team is coming back to the PU. They're bringing all the work, or much of the work rather, that they've developed along with them. This was always the plan.
Oops.
And since we had Rich Tyrer on a SCL 2 years ago saying that they were switching this priority, you know, we used to go PU and then into squadron, and we were switching the priority to go squadron and then into PU, you know, for most of our feature stuff. We're now 2024 is now where we're going to see the big reaping of rewards of
He said when we're gonna see. Do you guys believe him?
that technology, and everybody's very hyped for it, and appropriately so. Resource Network not being one of those things that was developed in Squadron and brought over. Oh,
Well, actually, for the CitizenCon, since you know, Squadron had a requirement of you know, to have the resource network.
okay.
So because you know, we want to get rid of the old pipe system, we actually move it from the P, well, not from the PU, but from our feature stream to Squadron 42. We did all the development for that was done for the CitizenCon, the UI, and you know, the actually tying it to fires, fixing up the live support, all of that was done in the Squadron 42 stream. So in a way, it's actually
So
coming,
even this, okay.
so in a way, it's actually coming back too.
All right. So okay, then the question is even more appropriate.
When?
What kind of time frame are we shooting for? I'm not gonna. Don't look into the
Wait, Jared just asked when.
camera and be like, it will be in this thing. I wouldn't believe you if you said that. But we have targets. What are we shooting for? What's the? You kept saying not in the first iteration. What's this first iteration of resource management intended to look like? And when
Jared's
are we
one of
shooting?
us.
So we are
Pog.
targeting Q2 next year with the release of life support, fire, and the engineering gameplay, so the base resource network with all the base functionality. So that will have also the repair beam with it, the item functionality that we showcased in the demo. So basically everything that you saw in the demo, that is the plan for Q2.
Okay, so a lot of people are going to go no shot, right? It's only no shot if they're also including all the changes to the components. It's still unlikely, but at the same time, think about what it takes to do it. They already have the repair beam that they showed you. Component targeting is already kind of a thing. It's the UI of all the ships that needs to happen, and that is, I don't know how easy that is, but it just seems like a thing that they already have available to them, that they just turn a ship into a hologram, right? So it seems like it's possible to be done in Q2. And I know this guy, just works all the time and never stops. So if there's anybody I trust on dates, it's Torsten. On when things will get done. Torsten, Elliot, those guys that are just like super enthusiastic about working hard on this game. We're super lucky to have them, and these people are the people that are keeping this thing propped up and alive. So if there's a date that I sort of believe, as long as it's not as comprehensive as some of the like things we'd like to do stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's that.
Torsten, Guillermo, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to work. I know you've got that big go no go to get to. I appreciate you
go no goes
taking
today,
a little time for us and
or whenever this was recorded.
We're gonna come back with a dear friend of mine, Jeff Zanelli, composer of many motion pictures and composer of Squadron 42. We're gonna talk a little bit about him. Let a whole bunch of our community meet him.
Oh, before we move on, do you not need all the gold standards for ships in order for resource management to roll out? Did he say the relay system was part of it? I might have missed over that. If the relay system has to be a part of it, that's a lot more. Right? Yeah, maybe Q2 and AC. I'm not sure. He said everything from CitizenCon. I don't know. He listed off things, and I don't think he mentioned the relays. But maybe. So, he said anything we saw in the presentation. Okay, yeah. That makes it seem like it's a bit further away, but didn't they fix a cut relay at CitizenCon? I'm referencing that you have to add that to all of the ships with interiors. So that would take a lot longer. So, for like timing things on how long it would take. Because whoever has to do that has to be doing other things as well, right? Like making ships and, things like that. So they are relying on somebody else to do that work. They're not going to be doing it themselves. So I think that's kind of far away. We'll see, but maybe.
For the very first time since we haven't had him on in so many years. And during that switchover,
I guess we'll leave this because it's that's where it ends. But that was Star Citizen Live, the actual resource management. This is the next thing is Jeff Zanelli, which is like the composer of Squadron 42. So I'm not as interested in that. And this React has gone on for well over an hour. It's an hour and 20 minutes. That's a very long time for a 42-minute video. So we'll leave it there. If any of you made it this far, thank you for watching, I guess. But I think highlights are, I think they understand that we don't want to be doing this all the time. Highlights are you can solo ships, especially if you use better components. The fear of things exploding all the time aren't going to be happening all the time. They're going to be happening if you are punishing your components a lot or getting damaged from like combat and stuff, and that they absolutely want to make it so you can solo a ship, but if you crew a ship, it'll be much more difficult on if you're getting pirated side to damage the ship because everybody can manage things. I don't know. What were some of the other things that I was like super spot on with, even though I didn't watch the different components types, like industry, competition, military are all going to actually get their purpose in the game. I think a lot of people now, that doesn't sound like it's a Q2 2024 thing, by the way. That doesn't seem like it's part of this. It might be. That's on the ship team regardless, right? They're gonna be the ones that do that balance. And I think that's always been in place or like a plan. It's just a matter of them doing it. I saw you mentioned Crucible a lot. I think you have to come up with the very basic system of repair and then make the Crucible cool based off of the feedback you get from that, right? So I think this was probably the best Star Citizen Live we've had in 2023, like by a mile. It was all very open, very honest, very to the point, no misunderstanding questions. Jared just asked the question and they answered. It was very simple. And if, I wanted to see, I just want to see more like this because that was really, really good for sure.